Sports Talk with Craig Ballard. Thank you for joining me, folks. I am your boy, Craig Ballard. Let's get it cracking with some NFL game balls and lame balls from this past week. Game balls for performances that impressed us, and lame balls for the exact opposite. So without further ado, let's get the crowd booing here for our first lame ball of the week, and that goes to Jacksonville Jaguar rookie quarterback Blaine Gabbert. Gabbert certainly looks like he has a future in the NFL, yes, but this past week, folks, that wasn't on display. It was a putrid performance. How about 10 for 30 from the Jacksonville quarterback for 97 yards? Wow, pretty much dictionary definition numbers around here of what earns you a lame ball. Anytime you're going to throw 30 times and complete 10 passes, yikes. Sticking with a lame ball as well, this is going to be another lame ball for Chris Johnson. He's earned numerous lame balls in this season. 2011 has been a nightmare for Chris Johnson. Got the big contract at the beginning of the year, but the on-field performance has not been there. This past week, no exception. 14 carries for 34 yards. Again, a poor game for Chris Johnson. Again, he's booed by the home crowd as well. So really some things going on in Tennessee right now. Interestingly enough, they give Javon Ringer, his backup running back, they give him 14 carries also this past week, and Ringer with twice as much production. And they give Ringer all the carries in the fourth quarter also. So some interesting things going on in Tennessee. Could we be seeing a changing of the guard? Ringer more carries and Chris Johnson less carries. Are we seeing that changing of the guard there in Tennessee? We'll keep our eye on that. Could be interesting there. Let's hand out some game balls for some performances this past week. How about all-day Adrian Peterson? Very impressed with the day he had. 162 all-purpose yards. He took it to the house twice, helping his Minnesota Vikings get a road win, which is always difficult to do in the NFL. In that same game, we're going to hand out a lame ball to Alindo Mare. Now, I'm a Dolphin fan myself, so I have a soft spot for Alindo Mare, former Dolphin, yes, but this is a Carolina team that's desperately trying to right their ship, get themselves turned around in that very tough division that they're in, and to have their rookie quarterback and young team get all the way down to a 31-yard field goal to at least tie the game, at least give yourself a chance in overtime, and Alindo Mare on that chip shot missed it at the end of the game. A definite lame ball, very disappointing scenario there for the Carolina Panthers and for Alindo Mare. Lame ball as well. Let's hand one out to Kevin Kolb. Again, a lame ball for Kevin Kolb as he continues to struggle in the desert for the Arizona Cardinals. He led them, we remember, all the way back in week 1 to a victory. It's since been 6 straight losses. In this past week, just 10 for 21 for Kevin Kolb. I mean, really struggling. We can see that he's dealing with a lot of injuries right now, yes, but still, the numbers, we're looking at the productions here when we're handing out game balls and lame balls, and the production just not there from Kevin Kolb. Again, 6 straight losses for that Cardinal team. Let's look at some brighter stories here. How about some game balls? How about Ray Rice and teammate Anquan Bolton sharing some game balls in Baltimore for that offense? That was a big win for this team. You wouldn't have thought, going up against Arizona, against Cobb in that same game, you wouldn't have thought that they would need a big performance from either one of these guys. Certainly not a comeback performance to get this win, but can you imagine the state that Baltimore would be in if they had lost this football game? Cincinnati's at 5-2, and the Steelers are on fire in that division right now, so this actually was a must-win game for Baltimore. They're down by 3 touchdowns, but they get a field goal and 3 touchdowns to come back and win the game. All 3 of those touchdowns by Ray Rice. See, Rice only had 63 yards for the day. That's not lame ball style, but lame ball style is absolutely taken to the house 3 times. And why Anquan Bolton? I mean, stop me if you've heard this before, folks. This guy is sickly good. What a talent he is. And he gets a game ball. 7 catches, 145 yards for Bolton, and he made some fantastic plays as per usual this past week for Baltimore. Yes, Rice put it in the house and finished the drives, but it was Bolton that was setting up those scores. Very, very impressive game all around there as far as I was concerned. Speaking of impressive games and wide receivers getting it done, have you seen what's been going on in New York with Eli Manning and Victor Cruz? Victor Cruz becoming a new BFF for the Giants and Eli Manning. He only played in 3 games in his rookie year last year. This year he already has 4 games with at least 98 receiving yards. Last week was one of those games. 7 catches for 99 yards in a victory against Miami. Took it to the house as well. Eli found him for a touchdown, big touchdown in the game-winning touchdown in that game as well. So a huge game for Victor Cruz. Very, very impressive. In that same game ball as well goes to his foe on the other side of the field, the Miami Dolphin running back Reggie Bush. And we've talked about this before here, folks. You can earn a game ball in a loss. But in this scenario here, I'm giving it to Reggie Bush. I liked what he did this last week. Over 100 yards, 103 yards. Believe it or not, folks, only the second time Reggie Bush has ever been north of 100 in his career. Both times coming against the New York Giants. He's, I don't know, they're the cure for what ails him somehow. He was running between the tackles. He was getting to the outside. He was looking really nice. He was one of the lone bright spots for Miami as they continue their struggles. But Bush, north of 100 yards, even in a loss, I was impressed. That was a game ball. Fred Jackson, again, game ball for Fred Jackson, folks. If you know me, you know I'm not a believer in this Buffalo Bill team going forward. I do not believe they're a playoff football team by any stretch of the imagination, but I would absolutely say if they continue to stack these W's, if they continue to win football games, continue to put up an impressive record, then we're going to start to hear more and more MVP talk for Mr. Fred Jackson. What a job he's been doing for the Bills this year. This past week, no exception. Again, just under 200 yards from scrimmage from Fred Jackson. He's killing that stat every single week, putting up way in the hundreds, high hundreds in all-purpose yards or in yards from scrimmage every week for Fred Jackson. He's catching the ball out of the backfield. He's running the ball. His pass protection has been great. I mean, he's doing everything that Bills team has asked of him. Again, game ball for Fred Jackson as we continue to be impressed with the 2011 campaign that he's put together. Sticking with Buffalo, we've got a definite lane ball for the Buffalo Bills organization, re-upping this past week with Ryan Fitzpatrick, 6 year, $60 million contract. I wasn't a fan. I'm not a believer in Ryan Fitzpatrick as a legitimate NFL quarterback going forward. B, your bread is buttered, Buffalo, on this offense by Fred Jackson. I mean, how is it that Fred Jackson, your franchise player, is looking around for, hey, where's my extension? Where's my re-up? Unbelievable. I thought that was a major swing and a miss to go that route, to go Fitzpatrick, then try to get Jackson. I didn't like that. C, this contract, 6 years, $60 million for Fitzpatrick, will put him in the top 6 or 7 paid quarterbacks in the league. Is he a top 6 or 7 quarterback? I firmly don't believe so. Even in your own house, Buffalo, even for you, he's got a 13-15 record as a starting quarterback. Hasn't even won as many games as he's lost. I'm underwhelmed with Fitzpatrick myself. This season, people are really high on him, and I guess I'm in the minority. I don't see it. I've seen one very good game from Ryan Fitzpatrick this year. It was week 3 against that New England secondary. Yes, that New England secondary is improving, yes, but back in week 3, that was literally the worst secondary in football. So for me, Fitzpatrick's had one good game. It was against the worst defense. I mean, I'm very, very underwhelmed here. For me personally, it's a lame ball for the Buffalo Bill organization. Another swing and a miss move from that team as far as player personnel decisions are, as far as I'm concerned anyway. Sticking with quarterbacks and lame balls, let's talk about Tim Tebow. Man, I mean, at some point, folks, the Denver Broncos are going to have to move on from this experiment that they've got going on with Tim Tebow. This guy is absolutely not a legitimate NFL quarterback. That delivery is so elongated and so problematic and really ugly as far as how you need to get that football out as an NFL quarterback. Tim Tebow this past week, as per usual in his career, under 50% pass completions, which are terrible, terrible numbers. This guy, folks, going forward, and John Fox is going to see very, very clearly, not an NFL quarterback. Lame ball for our boy Tim Tebow there, again for Tim Tebow. Final, because he's been on the lame ball before. A final game ball that we'll hand out this week. Steven Jackson of the St. Louis Rams. I mean, would we agree over Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints? I mean, I think we would agree that was the upset victory of Week 8. That was the most surprising final on the board as far as I was concerned anyway. We're probably on the same page there. And Steven Jackson was instrumental. How about 159 yards, folks? How about multiple touchdowns for Steven Jackson? Believe it or not, folks, this is now 3 years. Really surprising. 3 years between 100-yard games for Steven Jackson. But he was absolutely bursting on the scene this past week, absolutely carrying the day for that Rams team in that upset. They didn't have Sam Bradford, didn't matter. Steven Jackson was way on point. And our final lame ball of the week that we'll hand that out to Phillip Rivers. I mean, will the real Phillip Rivers please stand up, folks? This guy's been unrecognizable in 2011. Seeing more and more reports right now that he's dealing with a chest injury that he suffered back in week 2 against, I believe, New England, which really makes sense if you look at his numbers since then. They've been putrid. So, and this past week was no exception. Again, more interceptions than touchdowns for Rivers. Again, second half meltdowns. If you saw the game, folks, that they're playing a Kansas City team in a division game, a division that San Diego once completely controlled, and now it's a 3-way tie up top because right at the end of the game, tie game. You saw it, folks. Quarterback to center exchange, the most basic play in football. First down on the Kansas City 16-yard line. So you can score a touchdown and end the game right there, or at least kick a chip shot field goal and get a big victory as well. On first down, they fumble. Phillip Rivers fumbles the exchange from the center. I mean, if you're an NFL quarterback, if you're Phillip Rivers, folks, literally, how many times have you taken an exchange from a center in your life? I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of times for sure. Is it up in the millions? Boy, it may be, folks. I mean, it is way up there as far as how many times he has taken that snap from center. To have that be the screw up that ended that game, that lost that game for you. Wow, wow, really incredible. Unfortunately, if you are dealing with an injury, Philip Rivers, we do feel for you there. But again, we're looking at numbers here. We're looking at production, and it just hasn't been there. This past week was no exception. You made big play after big play in the negative down the stretch, and it was another San Diego loss and another disappointment in the Norv Turner era. Another lame ball for Philip Rivers. That's it for Game Balls and Lame Balls from Week 8 in the NFL. And your Sports Talk with Craig Ballard. Your boy Craig Ballard right here. Check out the blog spot. Definitely check that out as well. And the next video that we'll have coming up is our weekly look, as we'll look ahead to Week 9 in the National Football League. Get you some picks and some tidbits as well. Sports Talk with Craig Ballard. Thank you for joining me, folks.